everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're doing It Came From the Network. Topic of this It Came From the Network, FMW Hayabusa, The Flying Assassin. Now, I have this DVD somewhere in my pile of probably 500 DVDs that are just gaining dust, and it's one that I bought way back in the day in the early 2000s. We had a local record store that would also carry DVDs and movies and such called FYE, which isn't a local store, it was a chain. It's no longer open here. I think there is some still that are open, but my local one's not been open for years. But they used to have a wrestling section, and they would have, your WWE DVDs, the ECW DVDs from that era, and you would find these FMW DVDs that were put out by Tokyo Pop. And then also there'd be random stuff in there, like XPW DVDs would be in there, stuff of that nature. For this video, I did find a copy of it on YouTube, so I am going to link that in the description if you want to check out this after watching this, or if you want to pause this, go watch that and come back so you don't have spoilers. But the reason I did this is I was looking through different Hayabusa stuff, and I remembered this DVD, and it just so happened to be. I typed it in, it was there, so there we go. I didn't have to search it out in my pile of 500 DVDs, which used to be in order, but they're not because the whole thing got knocked over and I just put them up however I put them up. I digress. If you haven't seen my It Came From the Network videos before, I grade everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's jump right in. We're treated to kind of an interview talking about Hayabusa and his different moves that he innovated and moves that he used, like the 450, the Phoenix Splash, the Falcon Arrow, different things that he liked to do, the Tope Suicida, the different versions of the Moonsault. So really cool video here to show people that may not know who he is and what he's about. I believe all 3 of these matches are from the same night because they talk about it like it's an elimination tournament, or at least that's how they're presented to us. So we're going to start off first with his first matchup of the night, Hayabusa versus Masato Tanaka. And a lot of you guys may remember both of these guys from ECW. Hayabusa had the one match with Jinsei Shinzaki versus Rob Van Dam and Sabu. That's looked upon as one of the great matches in ECW history. Hayabusa is kind of the Japanese equivalent of Sabu. Masato Tanaka obviously has been a former ECW World Champion, had a legendary feud in ECW with Mike Awesome. So we start off hot, 2 of the biggest stars of FMW at this time, and I really like this match. And I don't know if some of it is the fact that now, 20 plus years later, we've seen everybody that these guys influenced do their moves, guys like Ricochet, guys like Will Ospreay, who recently wore a Hayabusa tribute to the ring. So while at the time it kind of felt special, going back now, and I know, because historically I know that this is where a lot of this came from, it's kind of hard to judge this on that scale now because you see everything that was innovated here and how it's been used since then. This is a nice hard-hitting match. It fell more into the style of Hayabusa than Tanaka, which I was kind of a little bit surprised with. Ultimately, Hayabusa does pick up the win on this one. I'm giving this one a 4. After that, we're treated to Hayabusa training with some monks, basically to add to his style. That leads us up to the second match of the DVD, or video, however you want to say it. Hayabusa going up against the Gladiator, aka Mike Awesome. They call him Gladiator Mike Awesome, but if you listen to the announcing, they definitely just say the Gladiator. It's in Japanese, so you would definitely hear them say Mike Awesome. I don't believe he was called Mike Awesome in FMW. I think he was just called the Gladiator. But this is made for an American audience, so obviously they're going to give us, much like with Tanaka, a guy we know. Awesome, again, another former ECW champion. Had that feud with Tanaka. Had to run in WCW, which I think he was already in WCW by this time. I want to say they mentioned it in the commentary. I don't 100% remember if they did or not, but he was a well-known commodity, basically, at this time. This is another good match. This felt like more of Hayabusa giving Mike Awesome some of his stuff. Mike Awesome feels like he did more, and not saying that Tanaka didn't in their match. Tanaka definitely got his moves in, like the Tornado DDT and the Rolling Elbow, or Roaring Elbow, however you want to call it. I've heard it called both ways. And in this one, Awesome got his splashes and power bombs and some of his hard-hitting moves off. I feel like Awesome he struggled with more, and in a way he should, because Mike Awesome has that size, whereas Tanaka doesn't. So there is that aspect that I think there should be a little bit of a struggle when they're going through. Again, this I thought was a really good match. I like these two against each other. I'm going to give this one a 4. Obviously, Hayabusa wins. Then we're treated to the precursor to the main event. He's going to wrestle Mr. Ganosake in the main event. So they show a history of them two going through the FMW dojo together, being friends, Ganosake turning heel on him, them having a match where it was hair versus mask, where Ganosake lost, but he did still unmask Hayabusa afterwards. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so hit me in the comments here. But that's how I've always pronounced it, because at the time, other than these DVDs, the VHSs that I got that he was on were all in Japanese. This was really interesting, because while Hayabusa, he might not be as popular in America as he once was, he did have a little bit of fame in America, but for the people that watched FMW, Ganosake was just as popular. This would be kind of like Tanahashi and Okada now. Okada is more well known in America now because he's had his run in AEW, while some people do know Tanahashi. He isn't as popular, I would say, to the general American audience as Okada, who's basically there every week for the last 8 months or so, or 6 months, or whatever the heck it's been. So yeah, these two are your two guys that were poised to be the stars of FMW when Onita did one of his many retirements, and a few of the other old guard members left. So after the history, obviously we go into the third and final match of the DVD. It was about an hour and a half DVD, and each match was about 25 minutes or so. So they gave us a lot of action. We have Hayabusa versus Mr. Ganosake. Again, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. And when I get to my rating of this, it's going to speak differently about what I'm going to say here. It's going to contradict this totally. As a standalone match, I think this is an amazing match. I absolutely love this. Following that story that they just told us about them being friends, Ganosake turning on him, the bitterness between the two, this did not feel like a blood feud. This felt more like a one-off special match, like let's say Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, without a feud behind. Instead of, let's say, they were feuding for 6 months and then they get more violent towards the end. I don't feel like this was more violent inherently than the other two matches. However, I do think it is a better match. I think the style that they wrestled here, and this is FMW, remind you, so they could have ramped up the violence by a lot. They could have had an exploding barbed wire death match. They could have had a number of different stipulations. And yes, this was a thing where both of the FMW belts were on the line at this point, which made it special in that itself. But like I said, it didn't feel like a blood feud match, and it's going to sound like I'm really bagging on this match, but I'm not. This is by far my favorite match of the three. And as a standalone match, I think it's fantastic. As a feud ender, or something that's a pivotal point in a feud, I don't think that importance was conveyed. This is your match in the bubble, the same thing that people disagree with Dave Meltzer about how he grades matches that are just matches against matches that are built to make or extend a feud. Again, this sounds like I'm talking bad about the match. I think it's a fantastic match. I would absolutely recommend watching it. Obviously, Hayabusa wins. This is his DVD, so of course he does. It's a very important moment. He tries to mend their friendship afterwards. Ganosake walks away from him. I don't remember the actual story going forward. I don't remember how much longer their feud went on, or if it did at all. But yeah, this was a really, really good match. Top-notch match. I'm giving the match a 5. Like I said, you're going to be surprised by the rating after how I talked about it. It works perfectly for a compilation DVD like this. It doesn't work as a feud ender, if that makes sense to everybody. Overall, I'm going to give this DVD a 4. I thought it was really good. I do like the fact that they took the time out in between the matches to explain who Hayabusa is to newer viewers or newer fans. I do like that they stacked it against 3 of FMW's best wrestlers, Masato Tanaka, the Gladiator, and Mr. Ganosake. The only thing I kind of wish they did more is maybe instead of putting all 3 of these from the same night or same tournament or whatever you may call it, or whatever it ended up being, maybe give us a little bit more. Maybe give us a deathmatch in there. They do have other FMW videos that cover their deathmatch aspects, so I see that might be a choice here, but that's kind of what FMW was known for, was their death matches. They did have fantastic wrestling matches like these, and these were kind of on the style of ECW, if you're not familiar with FMW, where the rules are very relaxed. I really enjoy this. I do highly recommend you check this out if you've never checked it out before. Again, I'm giving it an overall 4. The link will be in the description for this video, so definitely go check that out. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another It Came From The Network.